My name is Jane McClary. I'm 30 years old, and that Tuesday was supposed to be ordinary, quiet, predictable, maybe even a little boring. But it became the day my world split clean in two. I'd just finished presenting my firm's biggest architecture proposal of the year, a project that had consumed me for months. When the client signed off early, I packed up beaming and thought finally something to celebrate. Elliot, my boyfriend of 4 years, was the first person I wanted to tell. We'd been living together for 2, sharing a small apartment overlooking the river. The place wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We'd spent countless nights cooking together, arguing about movies and making plans for the future. Lately, I'd even started looking at engagement rings when I passed jewelry stores. So when I left the office that day, I had one simple plan. Surprise him with takeout from his favorite Thai place and maybe a bottle of wine. I even grabbed a slice of his favorite chocolate cake on the way home. It was just after 6 when I reached our building. The hallway smelled faintly of jasmine and floor cleaner. I slipped off my heels, quietly old habit, and turned the key softly in the lock. I wanted to catch his expression when he saw me. Maybe he'd scoop me up, kiss me, ask why I was home early. Instead, I froze in the doorway. The lights were dim, the curtains half drawn, and there on our gray couch sat Elliot and Rachel, my best friends since college. Her head rested on his shoulder, his hand gently tracing circles on her arm. They weren't kissing. But sometimes you don't need lips to know what's happening. There was something intimate, unspoken in the way they leaned toward each other, like the air between them had a pulse of its own. My keys slipped from my hand, clinking against the counter. The sound made them jerk apart like startled children. Rachel's voice cracked too bright, too nervous. "You're home early." Elliot stood abruptly, running a hand through his hair. "Hey, I thought you had the presentation tonight." "I did," I said quietly. "It went well. I wanted to surprise you." Rachel stood straightening her cardigan. "We were just talking." "Talking." My eyes flicked to Elliot's hand, still half reaching toward her. "That what you call it now?" He laughed, forced. "Come on, don't make this weird. Rachel was just, helping me sort out some stuff. About your birthday next month." "My birthday? How poetic." Rachel took a step forward, voice trembling. "Jane, it's not what it looks like." I tilted my head. "Then tell me what it is." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her silence said more than she ever could. For a long moment, no one spoke. The clock on the wall ticked. My takeout bag began to drip sauce onto the tile. The smell of basil and lemongrass filled the room absurdly bright against the sour taste in my mouth. Elliot broke first. "You're overreacting. You always do this, Jane. You jump to conclusions." "Don't call me that," I said. My voice was low, steady. "And don't gaslight me." I walked in. I saw what I saw. Rachel's eyes glistened. It wasn't planned. "We were just talking about you, actually." "Right," I murmured. "How thoughtful of you both." I picked up the bag from the floor, set it on the table, and looked around the apartment. The same walls we'd painted together, the couch we'd chosen after 3 arguments at IKEA, the photo of the 3 of us from last summer's barbecue. The laughter frozen in that picture suddenly felt like mockery. "I should go," Rachel whispered, edging toward the door. "No," Elliot said quickly. "We can explain." But I was already walking past him. "You don't owe me explanations. You made your choices." He reached for my arm. "Jane, stop. You're being dramatic." I turned. "If I were dramatic, you'd be bleeding." The words came out calm, too calm. His hand dropped. I grabbed my keys from the counter, ignoring the mess of pad thai and dripping curry on the table. I didn't shout, didn't cry, didn't demand answers. I just left, because the truth was already in the silence between them. When the elevator doors closed, I saw my reflection in the mirrored wall. Eyes wide, chest tight, holding it together by sheer will. Somewhere deep down, something cracked like glass under pressure. That night I didn't sleep. I sat by the window of a cheap motel across town, staring at the river I could barely see through the rain. Every few minutes I replayed that image, Rachel's head on his shoulder, his thumb moving gently across her arm. Not a kiss, not quite betrayal in the obvious sense, but it was enough. I thought about how Elliot used to say Rachel reminded him of me before work made me too serious. I thought about how she'd always been around, always laughing a little too loudly at his jokes. I thought about how I'd dismissed my own discomfort because I trusted them both. I trusted them both. Outside, lightning flashed. I whispered to the window, to no one. Maybe this was my fault for thinking loyalty was contagious. By morning, I'd made a decision. No screaming, no revenge, just distance. Because sometimes the quietest exit leaves the loudest echo. The next morning, Elliot texted me 3 times before I'd even left the motel. "Please come home." It was nothing. "You're making this worse than it is." I stared at the messages numb. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in like water through cracked concrete until you realize you're standing in ruins. By the end of the week, I went back to the apartment. Not because I forgave him, but because I needed to collect my things. When I walked in, everything was as I'd left it, the same faint scent of his cologne, the same framed picture of us at the lake. But something was missing. Trust, warmth, safety. Elliot met me in the living room, nervous, overeager. "Jane, can we please talk?" About what I said, keeping my voice level. "That night, it wasn't what you think. Rachel was upset about her breakup. She came over for advice. You just misunderstood." I almost laughed. "Do you always comfort crying friends with your hand in their hair?" He flushed. "You're twisting it. You know Rachel. She's affectionate. You're reading into something that isn't there." I looked at him, really looked. His eyes darted away. His jaw clenched a little too hard. "You're lying," I said softly. He took a step toward me. "No, I'm trying to fix this. You're making it impossible." I didn't answer. I just walked past him into the bedroom and started folding my clothes. He stood in the doorway watching. "You're not even going to fight for us." I stopped, my hands still. Why do women always have to fight for something a man already killed? He didn't have an answer. For a while after that, I tried pretending life was normal. We didn't break up, not officially. We just stopped talking. We still lived together, but the air was heavy. He'd leave early, come home late. His phone was always face down. When he did speak, it was in clipped, polite sentences like two strangers sharing a bus ride. Rachel, meanwhile, had become a ghost. She didn't call or text. Mutual friends said she was giving me space. I didn't know if I should laugh or cry. At first, I convinced myself that maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I'd let insecurity ruin something good. I even apologized to him one night after a few glasses of wine. He smiled faintly and said, "It's okay. I know you can be emotional." That word, it slithered under my skin like poison. A week later, I found Rachel's scarf in our laundry basket. Pale pink, the one I'd helped her pick out last Christmas. I held it up, feeling my stomach twist. "Elliot." He walked out of the bathroom, towel around his waist. "Yeah. Why is this here?" I asked. He glanced at it, shrugged. "She came by a few days ago. Must have left it." "She came here." He nodded too casually. "Yeah, she wanted to borrow my old camera. You know, for her photography class." "Funny," I said, because she dropped that class 2 months ago. His jaw tightened. "Are you checking up on her now?" "No," I said quietly. "I just listen." We stood there in silence, the scarf dangling between us like evidence neither of us wanted to acknowledge. He sighed. "Jane, you're spiraling again. You need to relax. Not everything's a conspiracy." "I'm not spiraling," I said. "I'm connecting dots you keep trying to erase." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration flaring. "You always have to make everything dramatic." "I always have to notice when something's wrong," I corrected. For a moment, his expression softened, guilt flickered across his face, but it vanished just as fast. He stepped closer, voice lowering. "You're pushing me away." I looked up at him. "No, Elliot. You already left. You just haven't packed yet." That night, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the reflection of the city lights on the window. I thought about the way Rachel used to tease me for being too logical, how Elliot once said she was so easy to talk to. I remembered the way she looked at him at our last dinner together, too long, too open. I remembered how he smiled back when he thought I wasn't watching. It had all been there. The clues. The small betrayals disguised as coincidences. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe love makes you blind because it hurts too much to see clearly. I went to bed that night with my eyes open. I heard Elliot come in, hours later, smelled Rachel's perfume on his jacket and said nothing. Because silence, I was starting to realize, isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just the sound of everything falling apart. The truth didn't explode into my life. It leaked in slow and sour until the air around me tasted like rust. 3 weeks after I found Rachel's scarf, I came home late from work. The apartment was too quiet. No TV, no music, just the faint hum of the refrigerator. Elliot was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at his phone, his face unreadable. "Hey," I said, setting my bag down. He looked up. "We need to talk." That sentence, the one everyone dreads, landed like a knife in my stomach. I didn't answer. I just waited. He stood pacing once before blurting out, "You were right." My breath caught. About what? He hesitated, then sighed. About Rachel. I didn't move. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire ready to snap. "How long?" I finally asked. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Does it matter?" "Humor me." 3 months, he said, not meeting my eyes. But emotionally, probably longer. I let out a soft, humorless laugh. Emotionally longer. That's poetic. "Jane, I didn't mean for it to happen." They never do. He started talking faster, words tumbling over themselves. It wasn't planned, okay. We just got close. You were always so busy, so focused on work. Rachel? She listened. She understood me. I felt my pulse in my ears. She understood you. He nodded weakly. She gets me in ways you don't anymore. With you, everything's so serious. With her, it feels easy. Something inside me broke quietly, cleanly. Not like a crash, more like a breath leaving my body and not coming back. Easy, I repeated, my voice flat. You cheated on me because she was easy. He frowned. That's not what I said. But that's what you meant. The doorbell rang. He froze. I stared at him. Let me guess, I said. Rachel. He opened the door before I could stop him. There she was, standing in the hallway, clutching her purse like a shield. Her eyes darted between us. Did you tell her? I stepped forward. He did. Rachel's face crumpled. Jane, please, I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you? She flinched. I don't know. It just happened. You know how much I care about you. You're my best friend. Best friends don't sleep with each other's boyfriends. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't just about sex. We love each other. We love each other, I repeated slowly, as if testing the words on my tongue. That's cute. Did you rehearse that line together? Elliot stepped closer. Jane, please stop. Why I turned to him, afraid of how it sounds out loud. Rachel reached for my hand. I didn't mean to steal him. I pulled my hand away. You can't steal what wants to be taken. She started crying, but the sound barely registered. I was too busy memorizing the moment, the exact second, when everything I believed about love disintegrated. 4 years of trust, laughter, plans for a home and a future gone, replaced by the hollow truth that neither of them had the courage to face until it was too late. I looked at Elliot. You know, I used to think heartbreak would feel like fire, but this feels like drowning. He whispered, I'm sorry. No, I said softly. You're guilty. That's not the same thing. I packed that night while they sat in the living room, whispering to each other. I didn't shout. I didn't slam doors. I just folded my life into a suitcase. When I reached the door, Elliot stood. Where are you going? Somewhere I can breathe. He moved toward me. You don't have to do this. Yes, I said I do. Rachel rose, wiping her eyes. Jane, please, can we at least talk? I looked at her one last time. You already said enough. Then I walked out. The elevator ride down was silent, except for the sound of my heartbeat. I didn't cry until I reached the parking lot, not because I wanted him back, but because I finally realized how long I'd been living in denial. Later that night, I sat in my car at a red light, my suitcase on the seat beside me. The city glowed around me, indifferent. And for the first time in years, I had nowhere to go, and no one waiting for me. But somehow the emptiness felt cleaner than the lies. I didn't block his number right away. For the first week, I just ignored it. His texts came in bursts, first guilt, then pleading, then anger, then silence. Each new message chipped away at the person he wanted me to keep. Being forgiving, understanding, naive. I moved into a short-term rental, a bare, echoing apartment with white walls and no memories. The first night I slept there, I realized something strange. I didn't miss him. I missed who I thought he was. There's a difference. The next morning, I went for a walk through the park. The air was cold, the kind that wakes you up from the inside. I passed a couple holding hands, laughing. A month ago, that sight would have gutted me. But now I just felt nothing. That nothing was peace. 3 weeks passed. People noticed my disappearance. Mara, one of our mutual friends, cornered me at a coffee shop. You're seriously not talking to him? She asked, incredulous. No, I said simply. She frowned. Jane, come on. He made a mistake. Everyone does. I stirred my coffee slowly. A mistake is spilling coffee on someone's rug. What he did was a decision. Mara rolled her eyes. You're really cold, you know that? I smiled faintly. No, I'm healing. That was the end of that conversation. I deleted my social media next, not out of shame, but because I didn't want to perform my pain. I didn't need to prove to anyone that I was doing fine. I just wanted to be fine. I started therapy, signed up for yoga, took weekend hikes by myself. I cooked for one and found that silence at dinner didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. Meanwhile, the updates kept finding me through others. Elliot had quit his job at the agency. Rachel was posting vague quotes about karma and losing yourself to love. I didn't care, but I read them anyway, as if studying a language I'd once spoken fluently, but now forgot. My therapist, a calm woman with gray hair and kind eyes, asked me once, "What do you want from all this, Jane?" I thought for a long moment before answering. Nothing. That's the point. She smiled. Then you're finally learning detachment, the hardest kind of revenge. One afternoon, I ran into Elliot's sister at the farmer's market. She looked surprised, almost relieved to see me. "Jane, I've been meaning to reach out," she said. He's not doing great." I picked up an apple, inspecting it. "That's unfortunate." Her face fell. "He made a mistake. He knows it. He misses you." "I'm sure he does," I said, setting the apple back down. "But he didn't miss me when I was still there." She sighed. "You used to love him." "I used to be loved by him too. At least I thought so." Her voice softened. "He's miserable, Jane. Don't you care?" I met her eyes. I care about the woman who finally stopped waiting for his misery to make her happy. She didn't know what to say after that. Nights were the hardest at first. Not because I missed him, but because I was relearning how to live without measuring my day around someone else's mood. I'd hear echoes of our old life, sometimes the sound of his laughter in my head, the way his toothbrush used to sit next to mine, the faint scent of his cologne when I unpacked something he'd once touched. But those memories faded slowly like photographs left in the sun. One evening, I lit a candle, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat by the window watching the city. I thought about Rachel. I wondered if she looked at him the same way I once did, believing love could excuse everything. Then I realized I didn't want to know. Some stories don't need sequels. That night I wrote in my journal, "Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy." When you disappear from the people who broke you, they're forced to face the echo of their own actions. By the time I closed the notebook, I felt lighter. It turns out absence can be the sharpest form of revenge, not because it punishes them, but because it frees you. They mistook my healing for heartlessness. They never understood that I had to become cold, just to stop bleeding. It started with a text I shouldn't have opened. "Hey, can we talk?" No name, but I didn't need one. I knew that number by heart once. Elliot. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. The same man who told me I was too emotional was now sending midnight messages like a confession. I deleted it without replying. 2 days later, another message appeared. "I just want closure." Closure. The word people use when what they really want is forgiveness they don't deserve. I didn't answer that one either. Weeks passed. Life felt steady, almost peaceful again. I got promoted at work, started teaching a part-time design course, and joined a weekend hiking group. That's where I met Noah, a history teacher with warm eyes and the kind of patience that makes you forget the world once demanded your constant apology. We weren't dating yet, just talking. Slowly, gently. He never pushed, never rushed. It felt like stepping barefoot onto soft grass after years of walking on glass. For the first time, I felt safe, and then the ghost came back. I was leaving the gym one evening when I noticed a car idling by the curb, a familiar silhouette behind the wheel. Elliot. I almost laughed. He looked smaller somehow, tired, unshaven eyes, heavy. He got out quickly when he saw me. "Jane, wait," he called. I didn't stop walking. "Please, I just need 5 minutes." I turned to him, keeping my tone calm. "Why are you here?" He ran a hand through his hair. "I know I don't deserve it, but I need to explain." "Rachel, she's gone. She left me." I blinked slowly. "And I'm supposed to care because—" His jaw tightened. "She used me, Jane. It was never real. She made me think." "She made you," I interrupted, voice sharp. "No one makes you betray someone. That was all you." He took a step closer, eyes glassy. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I see that now." I exhaled softly. "Funny. I told you that once and you laughed." He flinched. "I was stupid. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought she—" "You thought wrong," I said. "And now you're realizing that love doesn't feel like adrenaline. It feels like peace. And you threw yours away." He stared at me for a long moment, searching my face for the softness I used to give him. But it wasn't there anymore. I turned to leave. His voice broke behind me. "Can't you at least talk to me?" "No," I said without looking back. "Because I don't negotiate with my past." A week later, I saw her. I was mid-workout at the gym when I caught sight of Rachel by the entrance. She looked hollow. Her once glossy hair hung limp, her clothes too big, her face pale, the kind of tired that lives in the bones. She spotted me and froze. Then she walked over slow and hesitant. "Jane," she whispered, voice trembling. "Please, can we talk?" I lowered my headphones. "About what?" Tears filled her eyes. "About everything. I know you hate me. You have every right to. But I'm so sorry. Elliot, he used me. He made me feel like we were meant to be, but it was all lies. He never loved me like he loved you." I looked at her, really looked. The woman who once laughed in my kitchen, who swore she'd never hurt me now, stood shaking, broken and desperate for absolution. "That's unfortunate," I said quietly. She blinked. That's all you have to say. Yes, I replied. Because what you're feeling now, betrayal, confusion, pain, that's what you handed me months ago. You just never imagined being on the other end of it. She wiped her cheeks, voice cracking. I thought he was different. You thought wrong, I said gently. We both did. Her shoulders collapsed inward. Can you ever forgive me? I paused, choosing my words carefully. Forgiveness isn't about erasing what happened. It's about deciding it doesn't control me anymore. So yes, Rachel, I forgive you, but I don't want you in my life. The words seemed to stun her more than anger would have. She nodded weakly, whispering, I understand. Then she turned and walked away, leaving a faint trail of perfume and regret behind her. When I left the gym that night, the air felt lighter. The past had finally stopped following me. No angry texts, no unexpected calls, no desperate apologies could change what was already over. That night, I sat by my window again, the city lights flickering like old memories refusing to die. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, once upon a time I would have traded my peace for their apology, but peace doesn't need an audience. And for the first time in years, I meant it. 3 months after that night at the gym, I realized I hadn't thought about Elliot or Rachel in weeks. Not really. Their faces had become foggy outlines, familiar but distant, like characters from a story I'd outgrown. One morning, I got a message from Mara again. He's seeing someone new. Just thought you should know. I smiled to myself, sipping my coffee. Of course he is, I whispered. Men like Elliot never sit in the wreckage they create. They just move their furniture to someone else's house. By then, my life had changed shape entirely. Work was thriving. My students adored me. And Noah, the quiet, patient man I met on the trail, had become something real. He didn't make grand promises. He just showed up, with honesty, with consistency. He listened to me, not to fix me, but to understand. One evening, we were sitting on my balcony, the city humming below us. He handed me a cup of tea and asked, Do you ever miss him? I thought about it for a moment, the night breeze brushing my hair. No, I said. I miss who I thought he was. But the real him, no. Noah nodded softly. That's the difference between nostalgia and healing. I smiled. You sound like my therapist. He laughed. She sounds smart. We sat in silence for a while, watching the city lights blur into stars. A few days later, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Elliot. I didn't open it right away. I set it on my kitchen counter and stared at it for hours. Part of me wanted to know what he could possibly say now. The other part already knew. Eventually, curiosity won. Jane. I've spent months trying to find the right words, but nothing feels enough. You were my home, and I destroyed it. Rachel's gone. She left me for someone else, and I deserve that. But losing you, that's the part I can't live with. You were everything good in me. I see that now. I don't expect forgiveness, but if you ever think about what we had, please know I'd do anything to undo what I did. Elliot. I read it once, then again. Then I folded it carefully, walked to the trash, and dropped it in without hesitation. Because I didn't need his guilt anymore. I didn't need his acknowledgement to validate my pain. I had already built something better from the ruins he left behind. That night, Noah found me sitting quietly on the couch. Rough day, he asked. I shook my head. Actually, freeing. He smiled. That's my favorite kind of day. He reached for my hand, and I let him. The warmth of it felt steady. Real, not performative. And for the first time, I realized how much energy I'd spent loving people who never learned how to hold love without breaking it. I leaned back against him, my voice barely above a whisper. You know what's funny? I used to think closure came from them saying sorry, but it doesn't. What does it come from? He asked. From finally understanding I don't need to hear their voice to stop feeling their absence. A few weeks later, I got another text, an unknown number again. I saw your pictures with him. You look happy. I'm glad. Elliot, again. This time I didn't delete it right away. I looked at it for a long moment, then smiled. He was right. I was happy, and he had nothing to do with that happiness. So I didn't reply. I didn't block him either. I just let the message sit there like a reminder that healing isn't silence. It's indifference. Sometimes people ask if I ever forgave them. The truth is, forgiveness was never about letting them back in. It was about accepting that they showed me exactly who they were and believing them the first time. Elliot and Rachel thought they ruined me, but really they built the woman I was always meant to become. Because heartbreak didn't destroy me, it introduced me to myself. They became lessons I didn't ask for but learned anyway.